Do you know what a budget is? Do you know what aspects of your business need to be considered in preparing a budget? This video is for you. In this video, we will discuss the budgeting process. This document is the fourth deliverable in our operating plan. It documents all the expected cash inflows and cash outflows that we are expecting based on all our strategic planning and operating planning to date. With all these amounts documented, we can estimate our expected funding surplus or funding shortfall. With that, let's dive into the presentation. Previously, in video number 1, we were introduced to an overall strategic management framework, and in the videos that followed, we first took a deep dive into the first and second steps of that framework, namely developing and translating the strategy. In this video, we continue our discussion around the third step, namely planning operations. Here, we will assess the fourth technique in planning operations, namely preparing our budget. The budgeting process is iterative. First, we consider our strategic expenditure in our strategic plan. Next, we consider our operating plan and the revenue expectations documented in the revenue plan. And finally, we refer to our operating plan and the operating expense expectations documented in the resource capacity plan. The first step in preparing our overall budget is to refer to our most current balance sheet and identify our equity and liabilities. This shows us how our total assets are currently funded. The next step in preparing our overall budget is to refer to our operating plan, and more specifically to the section containing the revenue plan. Here we will identify two key sets of numbers. 1. Expected revenues. 2. Expected cost of revenues, which may need to consider our expected gross profit percentage. These numbers will be reflected in the first component of our budget, namely the operating budget. The next step in preparing our overall budget is to refer to both our strategic plan and our operating plan, and more specifically to the section containing our resource capacity plan. Here we will identify two key sets of numbers. 1. Recurring expenditure, which will be reflected alongside our revenues in our operating budget. 2. Long-term one-off expenditure, which will ultimately be reflected in our capital budget. At this point, we can refer to our operating budget to identify our operating budget surplus or deficit. You will note that the operating budget closely resembles an income statement. In fact, it is really our initial income statement budget. Next, we can prepare our capital budget by taking our existing liabilities and equity, adding our operating budget surplus or subtracting our operating budget deficit, and subtracting any capital or long-term one-off expenditure previously identified. The result is our funding surplus or shortfall. You will note that the capital budget closely resembles a balance sheet. In fact, it is really our initial balance sheet budget. In the following example, we can see a simplified budget that illustrates the key points discussed so far. Here we see an operating budget surplus of 100, existing debt and equity of 150, and a total capital budget of 400, resulting in a funding requirement of 150. Next, we consider our budgeting process, which we previously said was iterative in nature. Are we satisfied with the budget? Do we need to go back and review and revise our strategic plan, revenue plan, or resource capacity plan? If yes, then we repeat the process over and over again until we are satisfied with our budget and that it is realistic and achievable. It is essential that the iterative process is performed with focus and accuracy. This ensures that our strategic plan, operating plan, and related goals and performance measures are all aligned and supported with an appropriate budget. And finally, once we have an approved budget, we go execute. In this video, we learnt about the budgeting process. We linked all the details documented in our strategic plan, our revenue plan, and our resource capacity plan into an overall budget. We established 3 core concepts. Our operating budget, which closely resembles an income statement, our capital budget, which closely resembles a balance sheet, and our resulting funding surplus or shortfall. In the next video, we will continue developing our operating plan and consider performance measurement at the operational level. If you enjoyed this content, please like the video, subscribe to our channel, and click on the notification bell. It helps us grow the channel and bring more content to small and medium business owners and managers. Also, be sure to check the description below for any related product affiliate links. And finally, please comment on the video or click on our community tab to further interactions and updates.